Well, good morning, everybody. I know typically I'm not the first person that you see on stage, but we just wanted to take a moment and do something a little different today. I'm sure many of you have watched in the news and you see the situation that's happening in Ukraine with Russia. So we just wanted to take a moment and pray for what's going on over there. And before we do that, I found this quote online that a guy said, and I just think it really kind of speaks to this moment because I think we kind of wonder what we can do. Sometimes we wonder how we can contribute to this stuff that's happening half a world away. But this is what he says. He says, the suffering we see in this world isn't just going to make us grateful for our blessings. The suffering we see is to lead us to pray and work for healing. See, I think sometimes that we're just so removed and it's easy to just not think of, right? Because it doesn't affect us. But I believe, as followers of Jesus, that we're called to weigh into any situation. And I don't know what practically that looks like individually. I think it's going to be different for all of us, but what I do think we can do is pray. So I want to take a moment and lift up these nations and these leaders and our brothers and sisters who are struggling. So if you want to go ahead and bow with me, we're going to start the day off like that. King Jesus, some of this gets heavy. You see a video of an aircraft going by and hear a little girl scream. Lord, I just pray that you'd be present. I pray that you'd be present in the lives of both the Ukrainians and the Russians. I pray that you'd be present in the leaders. And I ask that you'd comfort those who are being sorrowful right now because their life has been thrown upside down. And I pray that you would wade into the lives of the leaders who are making these decisions. That you would start to work in a way and you would start to change people to bring a resolution to a different way. But even if that doesn't happen, we're going to trust you. We're going to trust that you see it. We're going to trust that you understand it in ways that we can't comprehend and believe that you can bring about good even in the most difficult, challenging circumstances. We know you can because we saw it on the cross. So we lift you up. We put it in your hands, and I pray that you'd show each one of us the way that we can press in. We give it to you. We ask that you would work. And it's in King Jesus' name we ask. Amen. It's heavy for me. We're going to start off singing a song that we don't typically open with, and I think a lot of people are probably feeling different things. So if you want to sit and let it wash over you, great. But if you want to stand and sing with us, we want to encourage you to do that as well.
You're the God of covenant and faithful promises. Time and time again, you have proven you'll do just what you said. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. Seasons change, you remain the same. Yeah, God from age to age, though the earth may pass away, your word remains the same. Yeah, your history can prove there's nothing you can't do. You're faithful and true. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast. to faithfulness to me.
Aren't you glad those words are true? I mean, I've let people down and people have let me down, but I can say, as one who's lived a few years, that Jesus has never let me down. He is that firm foundation, and that's what we're going to build on today. But I just want to welcome you here at Kensington Church, both in person, and if you've joined us online, we're so glad that you're going to be a part of this day. We have an absolutely great service planned for you, and I have a couple things to share with you, really just one main thing to share with you, and this is especially for all the women. So if you're a woman, pay attention. If you're a man, your job, and you have a woman in your life, your job is to make sure she's listening and that you make this happen for her, okay? Yeah. So this weekend, on Friday and Saturday, we have something called the IF Gathering. It's rather a strange name for a gathering, IF, but in 2014 it started and it's now become a movement, and it's based on this idea: if God is real, then what? And so women have been gathering, and this year we're expecting that it's going to be in almost 4,000 locations. It's a simulcast. 4,000 locations, all 50 states and nearly 40 countries, women gathering together. And so here's how it works. Friday night, it's a simulcast, some great teaching. You do it from the comfort of your own home. Someone around you is going to be serving you. I mean, your husband, your friend, your kids, food. They're going to be taking care of you women, and you're going to enjoy this. And then you're going to come here to our building on Saturday. We're going to gather together. It's also a simulcast here. Great teaching, great workshops online, but also to be together, to share a meal together, to have some fellowship, to have some discussion, interaction. So it's this Friday and this Saturday, and it's really easy to sign up online at our website, or you can go to the Kensington app if you have that, or you can go to the hub in our lobby, and you can get some information there. So really want to encourage you to do that. Are you in? Women, are you in? You going to do this? Come on. Join thousands and thousands of women all over the world. They're going to be gathering together in the name of Jesus. And the outcome we're hoping for is simply this: that you leave understanding more deeply how much you're loved by Jesus and what it means to follow him in a world that's got lots of chaos. Culture is shifting and changing. How do we follow Jesus in the current world? So please come and be a part of that. So, all right, so I do have one other thing I do want to talk about, but I'm going to get some help on this. I'm going to invite Sherry Horning, who is our director of K-Kids. Let's welcome her on stage. Hi, Sherry.
Hi.
Good to have you up here. So Sherry's been, listen to this, 9 years. She's been leading the K-Kids ministry here at Clinton Township. And she has, is it six? Six wonderful staff members that join her serving. You know, there's going to be a special place in heaven, 9 years.
There is.
And you're not done yet, right?
Nope.
Okay,
Nope.
so anyhow, so obviously for all of us, the last couple of years of the pandemic has been challenging in so many ways. Sherry, how has it impacted the ministry to our kids here at Kensington?
Well, yeah, good morning. Pre-pandemic, we were seeing probably 350 kids on a Sunday, and we had about 75 committed volunteers. And now we're at about 120 to 150 kids on a Sunday, and only about 30 to 35 volunteers.
Yeah, but that's still great, though, because we actually shut down for a while and had no kids, and then when they came back, it was mask, no mask, who has mask, up and down with COVID. But now we're seeing some stability and growth, and we have some hope that this thing is maybe going to be over soon. But those numbers are important, right? The 300 plus the 75, because there's a ratio. We want our kids to be safe.
Correct.
Okay, so we can't grow unless...
We have more volunteers.
Okay, you knew we were going there, didn't you? Right now, that's where we were headed with this. So the truth is that we're already at the point right now where families are showing up and with kids. So imagine they get the kids ready, they pile into their car, they drive here, they come in only to be told, I'm sorry, we're full. We have space for the kids. What we don't have is enough adults to create a loving, safe, encouragement environment. So what would you like to say to us, Sherry?
I would just like to say, if you have an interest, if you've been coming here for at least 3 months, if you have a heart for kids and families and you love Jesus, then we'd love to talk to you. And we have a desk right out in the lobby. We have people there all the time that are willing to talk to you and answer any of your questions.
Okay, so some people are wondering how highly skilled is this? Do I have to be able to color inside lines and
inside and outside?
You can go inside and outside
yes.
lines. Okay,
yep.
So if you've been attending at least 3 months and you would like to have impact on our kids, this is so vital that kids have a environment they learn in about God. They're loved by the staff. They hear about Jesus.
Yes, and this could be the only hour of their week where they have someone that's intentional with them that actually will sit and listen with them, color with them, do a craft with them, and just be there for them.
Okay, so please, this is urgent. It's really important that we do this. We want our kids to be safe. We don't want to turn anyone away. I'm seeing Terry sitting right here. Terry, sorry to pick on you, but Terry was part of our original team when we planted Kensington in 2006, and he made coffee those first few years. Now he's one of our hub guys at the hub. Well, Terry sent an email out to everybody who was a volunteer for the hub this week, and I read the email. In the email, he said something like this: "We're now doing overflow in the great room, not because there's not seats here, but because if you show up with your kids and K-Kids is full, that's where we send you." He said, "Come on, let's get on board here." He said, "If you've never visited K-Kids, visit. You've never volunteered, volunteer." He raised his hand and said, "I'm going to volunteer just once a month." So is that true? You don't have to do it every Sunday?
No, not every Sunday.
So Terry, you're going to volunteer once a month, even though you're already volunteering all the time, and you're trying to recruit the rest of your hub people to do that. So that's really being all in. So please, let's follow Terry's example. You can go to the hub and talk to Terry or others after the service. You can go over to the K-Kids desk and talk to Sherry and others. So, all right, last thing before I let you go. We have an event coming up.
We do. It's going to be
For
super
kids.
fun.
What is it?
And families. It's roller skating at the rink on March 13th,
Okay.
1:30.
Okay, so anybody, do you have to be good at skating?
Oh, no, that'll be the fun part.
That'll actually be the fun part.
Yeah.
So you can see it there. Go to our website and just put in skate, and we'd love to have you come, and we'll make fun of you. Okay.
Yep.
So all right, let's give Sherry a hand.
Thank you.
So today's going to be a great service. We have a new series that we're going to jump into for 3 weeks. It's called The Generous Way. And would you not agree that God is a generous God? I mean, the verse we know the most is John 3:16. For God so loved the world, he gave. So God is a generous God. And we're going to talk about generous living, where we join God in that journey, where he frees us up from all the things that confound our lives and make us anxious and live open-handedly in this world. So we're happy that you're here today and for the next 2 weeks as we go down this path. But right now, please take just a moment, stand up, be friendly, and say hi to somebody around you.
Well, good morning again, everybody. It's good to see you. Like they said, if you're here in person or online, we're glad you're here. And as Craig just mentioned, we're starting a new series called The Generous Way. And I'm sure a lot of you feel that tension already because you're like, ooh, generous. What are they talking about? Come on, what do you think? Yeah, money, talking about money. Well, this is not going to be a traditional money series in that regard. So if that's your thoughts, we hope to dispel them, and we'll start doing that with today's talk. But I really like where it's sitting in the flow of what we just came through. If you were here with us for the past 4 weeks, and if you haven't been, we talked a lot about this idea of Jesus and why he came. And why he came was to talk about this kingdom. This kingdom that he was coming to usher in, to share with people, because he knew there's a better way to live life. Like Jesus, God, as the creator of everything, sees us. He says, I know what's going to bring life. We all look for those emotions like joy, peace, happiness, right? And sometimes they seem like they're so close, but they're also so far away. Well, when Jesus came, he told these things called parables or stories. And why he told them was he wanted to communicate truth. He wanted to communicate the truth about why he came and what he was inviting, almost tripped there, his creation into, right? So that's where we're jumping in today. And we're kind of continuing on that thread as we talk about this topic. And it's a life that he's inviting us into. And we think it's a life of generosity. And that's why we entitled this called The Generous Way, because we think it's an invitation that Jesus is giving to us. And in inviting it to us into this, he's not after something. It's actually for our benefit. It's actually to bring us to this point where we can experience all of those things that he wants for every one of us. So that's what we're going to be talking about over the next couple of weeks. But before we go any further, I'd like to take a moment and receive this morning's offering. Let me start by saying, if you're a guest or this is your first time with us, we don't want you to feel like you're obligated to give. But for those of you who are on mission with us, thank you. I have a quick short story to share. This morning in our volunteer circle, Jackie, who leads our hospitality and guest services department, shared about something called Forgotten Harvest, which is a ministry we have every Thursday where we pass out food to people in need. And because of people who are on mission with us, because we have a building where we can do this, we were able to give out the equivalent of over $1 million worth of food in 2021. Yeah, right? Over 600,000 pounds of food, I think it was. And when we get to meet a need practically of people, I think and believe that it gives us much more weight when we talk about who this man Jesus is and the message that he came to bring. So for those of you who are on mission, who give and volunteer, thank you, because that's possible because of people coming alongside of us. And if you want to contribute today, you can put your gift in the boxes you leave, or we have an app. You can text the number on the screen, or also go to our website. And thank you for those of you who give, who serve, because truly this only happens because you're right here alongside of us today. So today we're going to be in the book of Matthew. Now, I want to give a little context first because I think it's helpful. A lot of you, that name Matthew is familiar, but for those of you it isn't, Matthew is one of Jesus's original 12 disciples, right? So he's one of the guys that Jesus takes right from the start and says, follow me. I want to teach you about my way so that you can then take this message of what I'm bringing and take it to the world. But it's really interesting. See, Matthew was a tax collector. And if you grew up in church or know something about the Bible, you know that's kind of a negative association for him. But you got to understand, during this time, the Jewish nation is no longer ruling themselves, right? The Romans have come in, they're occupying them, and they're exacting taxes from the people, and the burden is incredibly heavy. I've heard some commentators say up to 75% of what you earned, of what those people earned, was taken in taxes. So can you imagine, like, we gripe to our accountant now, but like, it is not much compared to what these people had to deal with. And Matthew is one of their own. He's a Jewish person, and what he has done is he now works for the Roman government. He works for the government, and he says, I'm going to take taxes from the people. And guess how they compensate him for that? Very, very well. Matthew is a rich individual. I think Matthew had a little bit of a pull of money in his heart because he's ostracized. Society more than likely detests him. Like, people would spit at him when he walked. If they got a chance where they could lay a shot at him, they would do it. Matthew is ostracized by his community because what he is doing on behalf of Rome. And I think that's because he had a love of money. Like, we get to see a little bit of Matthew's heart when we see the context of this scripture. And it gives us an indication of who he was before he met Jesus. And that person, I believe, treasured money. Money was one of the deep desires of his heart. And knowing that context makes it really interesting. Because what we read today is something that Jesus said, but Matthew thought was so important. So important that he wanted to detail in his gospel account. And we find that in Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 20. Let's see what Matthew said about Jesus when it came to treasure. Jesus says, don't store up treasure here on earth where moth eats them and rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal. Store yourself treasures in heaven where moth and rust cannot destroy and thieves do not break in and steal. So, right, it's interesting here. The text actually begins with a do not. Right? And if you've read the Bible, we're kind of familiar with do nots, but normally they don't sit in this type of context. It's like a do not steal or a do not disobey your authority or your parent. But this one's a little different. It's saying, hey, don't store up treasure here on earth. But what's really interesting to me is if you read this, we get a little bit of an insight into like how the way God does view money in some capacity. Like, I know in churches we've heard so much that like money's bad. Like, money can do a thing to us, and probably because of that, we shouldn't have any of that. But what I take from this passage is that's not true. Like, what Jesus is saying in this context is not that I don't want you to have anything. There's actually almost an encouragement here, like it's okay to accumulate treasure. Like, God is actually encouraging in some capacity for us to build up treasure. Like, I really believe God's fine with that. Like, God made each and every one of us, and he's given you a gift to be an entrepreneur or to be a manager or to help people or to sell things. And part of that gift means that you are able to accumulate wealth, that God is actually okay with that. Right? Now, does he want that to happen at the detriment of our family? Does he want our children to suffer or people in relationships because of that? No, absolutely not. But I also think it's important to point out that God's not totally against that in the way that sometimes that we think he is. Now, I also think it's important to point out the context of treasure in this passage has a little bit of an abundance mindset, right? We see it, and I think we get some of this from this text, but there's another parable, another story that Jesus told in Luke chapter 12 that I think does a really good job of kind of compounding on this passage, where we get to see a little bit of Jesus's heart when he was communicating this that Matthew wrote down. It's in Luke 12, and Jesus tells this story. It's about a rich man, okay? So there's a rich man. He's incredibly wealthy. In their society, it was very agrarian, which means if you have a large amount of land or cattle or that type of just ability or wealth, you're able to be a person that has a lot of means, right? So this rich man has that. He's got a farm, he's got land, he's got produce, whatever it is, and he's kind of built up a good life for himself. But one year, the crops that he bring in are incredibly more than anything he's had before. And it puts him in a little bit of a predicament, because his barns or his storage facility aren't quite big enough. They're not large enough to hold or to take in every single thing that he has, and he has a decision to make. And what he decides to do in the text, Jesus tells us, is to build a bigger barn, right? He wants to build a bigger barn or a bigger facility to be able to hold all of this stuff that he has, which is not a bad thing, right? We don't think of that as a problem, but as Jesus continues to talk in the account, we realize why it is. We realize why it's not such a good deal for this man to do it, and he's actually making a poor decision. See, the reason he was building this barn or this extra facility is because he decided he wanted to keep everything for himself. He decided that he had no thoughts of anyone, no concerns for anybody else, and this buildup of wealth was going to be so that he could take the rest of his life off. That he wouldn't have to work, he wouldn't have to do anything, and because of what he had, he was now able to just relax. And in doing that, he has no thoughts or ideas about the things of God, right? He's got no mindset towards eternity, and because of this, Jesus describes him this way as he closes the parable or the story in Luke 12:21. He says, "Yes, a person who does this is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God." You see, this man wanted to take everything he had, all of the extra, all of the abundance in this moment that he had built up, and he wanted to save it for himself. He had no mindset about eternity, had no concern with his neighbors who were struggling, which was a direct contradiction to that law that God had set before them way back when. His only concern was what he could do with this for himself. His heart was focused on him. And what Jesus is saying in this account and in this story is he's inviting his people into a different kind of life. It's not a life where it's not okay for us to have things, or to have money, or to have wealth. But when the only concern of our heart, when our only desire is exclusively and solely for ourselves, Jesus says that's just not the way. And he's not mad. He's not angry at anybody, but what he does say is, I want to invite you into something else. He wants to invite us into a different kind of life. And see, I think that Jesus understood the pull that money would have on us. And the reason why I can say that so completely is it's something that's very true for me. Right? Like, I like to hold my things tightly. Like, we talk about volunteering or time, like those things, okay, I'm a little bit more free to give those away. But when you start to talk about my checkbook or my pocketbook or more recently my debit card, it's not quite so easy. It's a little bit more challenging, and maybe more than anything else, Jesus knew that money would be an obstacle in our relationship with him. Actually, at the end of that passage that Matthew speaks about, that's exactly what Jesus says. This is what he says. What your money will do is indicate the position of your heart. He says, wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. Like, as I read that, I just honestly say, like, that's a fair statement. I mean, it is for me, and I would assume most of us in the room would kind of agree to that. Like I can say whatever I want about what I value. I can say whatever I want about what's important in my life, but what really makes it obvious is to look and see where my family spends our treasure. Because I've been in that situation where I can talk a big game. right? I can say that this is important, and I can dictate all these wonderful, elegant statements about what is valuable and what is important to me. But when it comes to treasure, and you look at where I spend it, where we send it, that's where we get the most clear picture of the things that we actually value. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But I want to tell you a story. Have you ever had one of those moments as a parent where you were so proud of your children, right? Like, you have worked really hard to teach them something. You've worked really hard to communicate a truth to them. Well, we as a family got to have that here pretty recently. It's interesting. My kids are learning the value of money even at 3 or 4 years old, right? Anybody in the room? Kids? Money? Nothing? Yours are great? Tithe right away? Awesome. I'm going to have all of you help me in some of that. But I've got 3-year-old, and they'll have 17 cents in change, right? And they carry it around, it's jingling in their pocket, and they'll set it down, and somebody else grabs it, right? And somebody else grabs it, and boy, the wheels come off. Anybody? Right? Like, your kids are out there, they're after it, and then somebody takes something from them, and they're pretty upset. So even my 3-year-olds understand the value of money. Well, this is one of those moments where we've tried to communicate to them what we think about money, what the Bible teaches us about money. And so one day, our neighbor comes over, and he says, hey, can you help shovel not his driveway, but another neighbor's driveway? Because this gentleman was a little older, but the woman over there was a bit older, and she was not able to get out and do that. And it wasn't me. They were talking to my wife, and so as the story goes, April and Link go out, and they shovel this person's driveway. Well, the neighbor who asked if my son would help then gave him $20 to say thank you for doing this good deed for somebody that lived on our street. And I didn't hear about it until after the fact, so April told me, and I thought that was it, right? Like, that's the end of it. From now on, we just went over and shoveled this other lady's driveway because we knew of the issues, and truly, Lincoln getting paid $20 to do that was way overpaid in what it actually took to shovel this driveway. But then a couple of weeks go by, and a little bit later, April comes up to me, Lincoln comes home and he says, hey, Mom and Dad, in church today, in K Kids, we were talking about these Pokot people, right? And if you've heard or been around us, you know who the Pokot people are. They're a tribe in India that doesn't have clean water. And the teachers did a great job of talking to them about the struggles that these people go through, the things in their life that is hard. And Lincoln said, I want to give my $20 to the Pokot people, not in India, in Kenya. I misspoke. But these people that didn't have enough. And it's that moment where as a parent, you're like, yes, my son gets it. And I thought, I'm going to put this into my message. And then I thought, oh, crud, I better check with my wife and actually make sure my son did this before I communicate it to everybody, right? So I'm in the office. I call her. I says, April, did Lincoln ever take that $20 and give it? And she says, I don't think so, but let me check. So I hear him come over. She asks the question, and he says, yeah, I got that out of my drawer, and I took it myself. Yeah. I can't tell you how proud I was of my son. But then as I started to sit and to think about this, there was another thing that came to my attention, right? In light of today's message, the thing that I asked myself is, why is my son, who's 8 years old, who knows far less about Jesus than his dad, have such a better understanding of what Jesus and Matthew are communicating than I do? Like, what happened to me? How did life break me down or do something in such a way that when I hear about a need, I'm not as quick to act? Because, honestly, that $20 represented a massive percentage of what it was that little Lincoln had. But you know what? He didn't care. And in this situation, on this topic, my 8-year-old boy's heart is far closer to Jesus's than his dad is. And I know, he doesn't have the responsibilities we have as adults. He doesn't have to care for providing a family or doing this. And we've taught them about money. Our family personally believes that there's a percentage we could start with. And Lincoln didn't come to us and say, hey, Mom and Dad, I want to give the percentage. Right? And he could have done that. It would have been fine. But sometimes me, personally, there's this obligation I feel, but not Lincoln. Lincoln came, so what happened to me? And so then I started to think, was I ever like Lincoln? Was I a little ever more like my son, and I was generous, and I was willing to give to people that had need when I have excess? So I called my mom, and I told her the story, and she's, Grandma, oh my gosh, my grandson's so beautiful. I'm like, yeah, I know, this is about me. Will you stop for a second? And I asked her, I said, hey, Mom, was there ever a time in my life that I was more like Lincoln? Was there ever a moment where I was more willing to give. Because my mom and dad had taught me all about this, and this is kind of the foundation for what we teach our children. And she said, Adam, I don't know if you were ever as generous as him, but there was a point where you and all of your siblings were more like that. Like my parents would talk to us about the percentage that they thought we should start with. And when we heard about kids or people or situations that were bad, we would give over in abundance. And it was like a joyful thing. Like it was this great build-up experience. So again, my question is, I was like that. My siblings were like that. There's something that was taught to me, and I got it. And I practically put it into practice. But then as I grew older, something changed. And it was like that position of my heart that was loosely, that where my hands were a little bit more lax, started to clench up. And they started to tighten. And in some way, that little 8-year-old, who knows far less about the Bible than I do, is much, much closer to Jesus' heart than I am. And I get it. Like life has this thing that happened to us. I don't know if it's our Western mindset, if our cultural expectations, or maybe like truthfully, some of you have gone through traumas with money. So it makes you think of it. It makes us think of it differently and handle it differently. But something changed in our life. There was something in our dynamic that was different. And it's led us to be people that maybe we weren't once always. Which leads me again to ask another question. Is that who I want to be? Do I want to be a person that's got the tight fist grip, or would I like to be more like my son, and would I like to hold on to things a little bit less tightly than I always had? See, if you were to ask me this question and say, hey, Adam, I can wave a magic wand on you, and you won't care about things as much. You won't care about the car you drive or the clothes you wear and what people that you don't know think about you because of all of those outside influences, I would say, change me. Like, take this thing that happens in my head and get rid of it so I can be more generous, so I can be more loose-held with my hand when it comes to those things. And what I think Jesus is saying is there's not a magic wand. But if you start to follow me, I'll invite you into that. I'll start to teach you and show you what it's like for me, and I don't know what it is for yours, but for me to care less about people and be more concerned with building this nest egg so I can protect my family. If you trust me, I'll teach you to walk into that, and I'll show you a little bit more of what that is like, and I'll even change the position of your heart. See, the passage closed by saying that where our treasure is, there the desires of our heart will be also, and this is how I translate that. What we are building is what we treasure. Right? And that can practically play out, or even in other different ways. The things that are important to us, the things that we spend our money on, what we are building, the kingdom that each of us is putting our efforts, our energy, and our finances towards is the thing that we value. And I talked a little bit about this last week because God has an invitation to all of us. When Jesus came, he's ushering in this different kind of kingdom. Right? This kingdom that nobody's ever been a part of or experienced. And he says, I want to invite you into this, not because I need your money, not because I need your time or energy and effort, because there is a better way to live. And in that is an invitation for every person who walks on this earth to join Jesus in doing that. Is having money sinful? No. Is spending money and some of the things on different elements that we enjoy? Absolutely not. Ecclesiastes actually tells us that wealth can be a gift from God and it's something to enjoy. But if we turn into the man with the farm, if we have excess and our only concern is how can I build bigger? How can I have a better life for me? I think we're missing something that Jesus is inviting us into. When money takes over our heart, we tend to find ourselves in a position that I don't think God ever intended for us to be. We have a video drama that we put together that we think really paints this picture well and kind of shows us what God is inviting us into. So we want to take some time now and watch that together, and then I'll come back out and we'll chat a little bit more about this again.
Unbelievable. What a jerk.
Rough day?
Huh? Yeah, try a rough year. What's up? Yeah, I already sent it. Well, it's not my fault they don't check their email. All right, well, I'll check in tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Things not going well, huh?
Yeah, you can say that again.
Well, Josh was out of line during the meeting.
Oh, can you believe that guy?
Josh is going through some rough times.
You know Josh.
Yeah, good guy.
Yeah, if you say so.
You know, John, you weren't on your best behavior either.
How do you know? Have we met before?
It's been a while.
All right, look, no offense, but I have no idea who you are.
None taken. I mean, you've been busy with the Sterling project. And Caleb's been acting up in school. Samantha showing signs of anxiety. And you and your wife have been having arguments about having another child.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Dude, what are you stalking me?
I just want to help.
Oh, you want to help? Oh, okay, great. You want to help me? All right. Well, if you want to help me so much, why don't you get my wife to understand my side? Or how about you close this deal for me so I can keep my job? Or better yet, why don't you put some cash in my account if you want to help me so much? Why don't you do me a favor? Butt out. Hey, look, man. You're just freaking me out a little with the whole, knowing the whole Sterling thing and Caleb, Sam. And how the heck do you know my name?
Well, your dad wanted to call you Robert, but your mom wanted to call you Jonathan after her favorite uncle. And, well, I guess we know who won those debates, don't we? Little weird, me knowing everything about you, isn't it?
Come on, man.
Every last little detail. Try me.
Oh, you're serious? All right, okay. In 7th grade, I had a crush on a girl named Shannon Wood. And I wrote her a note that asked if she liked me. She had to pick between 3 boxes, yes, no, or maybe. I put the note in her locker after lunch. What did I write the note on?
Peanut M&M wrapper.
Wrong. I wrote on the outside of a Mariah Carey CD that I gave her during Valentine's Day. So there.
Well, actually, that was the second draft. The first draft you wrote on a peanut M&M wrapper the day before, on the bus. I remember when she gave back the note and she had checked no. You were really hurt. Boy, were you mad at me?
Hey, why would I be mad at you? Hey, sir. Are you? Come on. Oh, my God. My you. Huh? Wait a second. Whoa. Am I dead?
No, John, you're not dead.
Okay, well, you know what? In that case, the thing I said about my wife last week, I didn't mean it.
It's okay.
Hey, and then that thing that happened at the restaurant on Saturday, that was not my fault. In the office supplies in my car that I took from work. Let me tell you something. I was gonna return it.
John,
I was gonna return it. You know I was gonna return it.
it's okay. We can work on that stuff later.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think you need to do to change your life?
I'm not sure. What, move to Africa? Become a missionary?
No, that would be bad for you. How about letting go of some things?
I mean, you think that'll help?
With the way your things are going? Why don't we start with money? Let's take a look in your wallet.
Let's see. I think I only have, I only got 100.
Well, John,
What? Okay, I did not know that was there. Okay, honest.
By the way, happy birthday. I saw that you got yourself an early birthday present.
Yeah, she's beautiful, isn't she? Just had her detailed. Unbelievable acceleration, infotainment system,
Tri-zone temperature control, the ambient interior lighting. Yeah, you got a lot of nice extras.
All right. All right. Can't believe I'm doing this.
You're doing great. Now, what's in the backpack?
Laptop, quarterly reports, ID card.
I will take your job.
You can have my job.
I mean, I want you to give me your job.
I don't know. Like, this is my livelihood you're messing with. You know, I don't make a lot of money, but I got bills to pay. Insurance, a mortgage.
You have a very nice home, especially with all the work you've done. Subway tiles are a little cliche.
You want my home, don't you? That's a lot to ask.
No one's twisting your arm.
My money, my car, my job, my house. What's next? My family?
You have a good-looking family.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. This is from our vacation to Washington, D.C. My family?
Sounds like a lot, isn't it?
You think? My wife, my kids? You know what, here, take my phone. Take my ring. All right, there you go. You have everything. I have nothing left.
There is one more thing.
What? What were you talking about? I have given you everything. I have nothing else to give you. You want me? I mean, what could you possibly do with me?
You'd be amazed.
All right. Okay, yeah, you can take me too. I'll do it.
Feels better, doesn't it?
Hey, you know what it does? Now what?
Now we can begin. Here.
Wait, what are you doing?
You're welcome. I just want you to remember that these things are all mine, but I'm giving them to you, like a gift. Use them wisely.
Yeah, but you still have my life. Do I get that back too, or?
Do you really want it back?
Yeah, I guess I don't. What am I supposed to do with all this?
Check in with me. I'll let you know.
I lean not on my own understanding.
things. See, I think Jesus knew something, and I think it's something that Matthew figured out. Our things can get in the way of what Jesus wants to do with us. And I think the reason that is because we think he wants to take them. He wants to take our things. He wants to take my money. My money. See, that's not the case. Remember, I think Jesus came and he came to turn this idea of what we thought that was important upside down, and he did that because he wanted to release us into something better. And I also think Jesus knew one of the biggest obstacles in that would be our money. But here's the thing. Jesus isn't after our money. He's after our heart. I think a good question to ask in light of this teaching is, what is it that maybe gets in between the path of me and Jesus? What are the things that stop me from step by step moving closer to him? And I'm just going to be honest, for me, money's one. Hold on to it tightly, right? Because probably security, which is interesting because I didn't grow up in an insecure way, but there's something inside of Adam that doesn't fully trust God. So I got to build it. I got to build this thing to protect the people I love and those I care for. And I put this pressure on myself. And I think God's up there looking at me, Jesus saying, oh, Adam, I've got such a better way. And what he's doing is he's inviting us deeper into that relationship. And that is what it's about. So I think a good thing for us to do this week is look at our finances. Check out your credit card statement. Look at your online banking. If you're a checkbook person, that will work as well. Take a peek and see what it is that you truly treasure, because we can say anything we want. But practically, where we look at these things, we will start to get an idea of what it is that we can treasure. And then my ask isn't for you to give anything. My ask is that we would just start to pray. We start to pray and we start to ask God, is this okay? Is the situation that I've put myself in, is this spot that I'm currently residing in okay with you? Or are you trying to invite me into something deeper? And as we do that, remember, it's not about our things. It's about our heart. Jesus wants to come and he wants to meet us here because he's got something that is so much greater. Remember Matthew? Matthew loved money. He was crazy about it. He betrayed probably his mom, his dad, his siblings, and all of the people in his life in order so that he could become a rich man. But then he met Jesus. And Jesus started to show him there was a better way. Jesus showed him that things weren't as valuable, things weren't as important. And what he did is he offered Matthew a heart check. He said, Matthew, this is the position you're in. We've got all these gadgets and gizmos that show us the health of our heart. And I think in this moment, what Jesus is inviting us to is to spiritually take a moment where we get to check the position of our heart. And that's what we're going to be walking through these next couple of weeks. So as you leave today, we've got this pamphlet, and we're calling this the Generosity Challenge. And what we would like you to do is just go home and read this. Read it and process what it is that you might want to do. Because truly the issue here is generosity. It's not about dollars. I know in some ways we think, again, church is just after my money. I'm telling you, that's not it. If you read this, you'll see we don't even care if you give it to us. What we want every one of us to do is take a moment and consider the position of our heart. See what it is that we treasure. And ask Jesus if he wants us to change it. Ask him if he wants us to do something different. And my ask is that you would consider what generosity looks for you. And pray a dangerous prayer. Ask God what it would look like for me to take these resources, these things, and release them to him. And see what he does when he gives them back. See what he might want each and every one of us to do. Let's pray. Lord, it is a hard subject. I know it is for me. It's hard for me to stand up here even and talk about it, but I believe with everything inside of me that's really not about money. It's a discipleship issue where you're saying, I want to bring each and every person into something greater. And if we can remove money from the position that we place on it, that you will act in a crazy way and you will change us. Not so that we can necessarily have more, but so that we could understand more of who you are in the kingdom you came to bring. I pray that you'd teach me more about this week as I do the same thing and look at where my treasure is and ask what it is that you might say. Pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. I know the night won't last. Your word will come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Jesus, you're still enough. Keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail me yet. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. 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 Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness.
I think it's just good to point out the obvious. This is something that makes us anxious. And I was reminded of something Craig said when we were in the prayer room. There's this part of Scripture where it says, therefore, which means listen up, don't be anxious. And we realize that. It's easy to hear that and to still be like, okay, how? And I just want to say, that's what we're going to take on next week. We know this is a tall order. We know this is a big ask. But I do pray that as you go out, that you'll grab one of these from the people at the door, and you'll just start to consider. Start to ask God what it is that he might want to do. Because I think he's in this constant cycle of helping us go through things, using situations and circumstances that stretch us. But as he does that, remember, he's inviting us into something better. Hey, our prayer team's going to be down here in the front. I don't know what your week has been like, but maybe you just want somebody to pray for you. We'll have people available. As you exit, make sure you grab one of these, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here next week where we take on part 2 of this series and talk a little bit more about that idea of being anxious. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.